Hello, it's fall here. I just came in from outside and it's chilly. You can tell my glasses are still dark from being outside. But I wanted to share kind of the direction of where I'm going. And that comes from a couple of different places. These two mixed media pieces were created a couple weeks ago if you watched that video. And that led to this one becoming a potential panel. And so then from this piece, I created a bunch of coordinating fabrics and uploaded them to Spoonflower. I'm waiting for the delivery on that. And when it comes, if I approve how everything looks, then I'm going to offer it to everyone. So you can stay tuned for that. That led me also to this because this was also created that same weekend, and I thought, well, let's do it with this one too. And I have to say, yesterday I worked on a whole bunch of coordinating prints for this panel, and I really love some of them. So that is happening. I have a couple other things happening that are not necessarily like they're kind of secret at this point. This is one of them, and I am still working on this quilt slow but sure. Someone mentioned that it looked like she or he was peeking behind covers when I had the quilt blocks up here. Right now I'm thinking I'm going to maybe, because this was originally a landscape, maybe making this more of a garden down here and using some of my quilt block challenge blocks. We'll see how that goes. I'm also working on some other things that also are not for publication yet. I'm working with a friend on a new workshop, and we will, once we're done testing the product and everything, we will be debuting that as well. So meanwhile, I am going to do a little bit of improv sewing blocks, and I will bring you along with that as I do it. And what else? I just put up a fence and a gate. I'm considering getting goats next spring. We'll see. We'll see about that. What else? I think that might be all for now. When the Spoonflower fabric comes, I will show you that. And hopefully by next week, I will have this complete, but no guarantees. And then I could start on something using this panel. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. And oh yeah, also, oh, this is also very exciting. So my workshop in Colorado at the Estelle Center for the Arts, that has filled already, and there are people on the waiting list. So if you are interested in the Colorado workshop, you can still sign up for the waiting list. Also, the one in Wisconsin at Madeline Island has not filled yet, but if you're interested in that one, I would say, based on what happened in Colorado, you might want to get signed up for that as well. So without further ado, I'm going to head for the sewing machine. Oh, no, wait, I have one more thing. Oh, okay, I'll show you that. I ordered, so these are on paper, and I ordered some panels, some wood panels to do future work along these lines. And I'm very excited about that too. So lots of exciting things. I don't know if you find them exciting, but for me, exciting. Okay, now let's get to sewing. So today I'm going to do a bit of improv piecing. I chose these fat quarters for my palette. I trimmed off all of the salvages, and then I cut the fat quarters into quarters. And that gave me units of about 9.5 by 10.5 inches, and that can vary a bit, but for the most part, it was pretty consistent. So for this method, you are going to always place the fabric right side up on top of each other. So here I have two pieces. Now when you go to cut these, you don't want to cut them lengthwise. In other words, like this, because we want to keep these blocks somewhat consistent. And because they're not squares, it just leans toward a square a little easier if you cut this direction, long side to long side. Then you swap out the fabrics and you piece each one together. I like to have the concave piece on top, and I usually use my fingers, as you can see, to where the pins would go along the curve. You don't want to stretch your fabric. You want to let the feed dogs feed it naturally. No pushing, no pulling. If you want to use pins, please use pins. This is a fairly mild curve, and normally when I improv piece, I'm all over the place with big curves and little curves and straight lines. And for this particular project, I've decided I'm going to give myself some guidelines, some rules, some parameters. And that is that I'm always going to cut the block like I just mentioned. I'm also always going to do this gentle curve, what I would consider a gentle curve. And for me, this is almost as easy as sewing a straight line. So I like the look of the curve, and I like the ease of this amount of curve. So for you, it will be different because everybody has a different level of comfort and experience. So I always say start with a straight line, then make a slightly curved line, and then keep making them curvier and curvier and curvier. First of all, to give yourself the experience so that you can do curvy curves if you want, because they are intimidating. They are a little bit scary at first. And eventually you can do a curvy curve. Now, I'm doing this slight curve. I would consider this a slight curve because I want to keep it simple. I need to finish this project relatively quickly. So I need to be able to sew it in a, decent amount of time. So again, the convex piece is on top. I sew a couple stitches, I have it needle down. Then I line up with my fingers the edge where the pin would be without stretching the fabric or forcing it. And then I just stitch a 1/4 inch or slightly less, and it gives me a pretty darn nice curve. And you notice that they're not perfectly lined up. That's because there's no seam allowance in this method, and we will trim later. For now, I'm pressing as I go. Sometimes I sew them all and then I press them all. It's totally up to you and how you feel that day. I also have my sewing machine on a slightly slower stitch speed, and that I think for me that suits how I feel that day too. So today has been a rather relaxed day, and I want to keep it that way. So I'm kind of on a medium speed here. Some days I'm zooming along like, crazy. I'm also trying to match so that I'm not using same two fabrics together in any, although it's probably not really going to matter in the long run, but right now that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, you're going to get two blocks that are going to have the same fabrics, obviously, when you do this method. But then after that, in the next step, I always want to have, well, actually in both steps, I want to use different combinations is what I'm trying to say. I'm going to speed this up a wee bit, and I will see you in the next step. In step 2, we're going to take the units from step 1 and put them on top of each other, right sides up. And then we are going to make sure that those slightly curved seams make an X. Now you can do it the other way, but because I'm giving myself parameters, that's what I've decided for this one. So when you try this, just experiment and see what you get, see what you like. But for this one, I'm going to do the X. And then what I'm doing is I'm feeling where the bottom seam is so that I know where they intersect, and I know I do not want to cut across that intersection. And now I'm going to trim the bottom square because it's just easier to line up the two units to sew them together when they both have the same starting spot. And just as before, we're doing a mix and match here, swapping them out. And again, concave on top, same exact step that we did previously. The only difference here is that you have a seam to sew over, actually a couple seams to sew over, but for the most part, it doesn't make a bit of difference. And now I'm going to trim each of these blocks to 8 inches square. So this was one of those weeks where I was pulled in a million directions, and this video shows it. And I did not get much done on my art quilt, and sometimes that happens. And you know what? I am not going to beat myself up over it, and you shouldn't either. And we will see you next week and see how much I get done on that or if other things creep in. Thanks so much for watching. You know, I love it when you're here at the end, and I will see you next week.